Hello and welcome to the Ice Guys. This is the show that takes you into the world of the National Hockey League. Every game, every day, from a betting perspective. With pro sports handicappers, Ian Cameron, Alex B. Smith, and various guests from the world of hockey and sports betting. And now, here's your host, Ian Cameron.
Welcome to the Ice Guys, Wednesday, May 21st. Ian Cameron, Alex B. Smith with you. Perlo will be joining us later in the show as well as we get you ready for Game 1 of the Western Conference Final, the Edmonton Oilers and the Dallas Stars. And I would be lying if I didn't say that I'm a little bit more into this series and looking a little bit more forward to this series starting tonight than the one last night. Last night I was into it and excited about the conference final. This is a different level of excitement tonight. I just feel it in my bones when I woke up this morning. So really, I'm looking forward to Oilers Stars, and they get going tonight in Dallas with Game 1. But first of all, we will look back on last night, obviously Game 1 in the Eastern Conference Final, and for the Carolina Hurricanes. And we both believed it on the show yesterday. We were both on Carolina, not just to win Game 1, but obviously we took a shot with the series combo, winning Game 1 Carolina, but Florida winning the series. We felt, and I certainly felt this way, that if either of these teams are going to lose Game 1, who's got a better chance of winning the series if they lose Game 1? And clearly for me, it would have been Florida. I think the fact that Carolina lost Game 1, that's a much bigger setback for them here in this series, with the fact that they had been swept by this Panthers team, obviously 2 years ago in the conference final, with the fact that they were getting Florida off a hard-fought, exhaustive Game 7 against Toronto in a 7-game series against the Leafs. And unfortunately, to fall down 2-0 like they did in the first period, not the start they wanted, even though, quite honestly, at 5-on-5, they did a lot of good things. Zone time, possession time, the usual characteristics of the Carolina Hurricanes. Puck possession and offensive zone time and just carrying the play more. But they weren't able to get that first goal. And then, of course, Florida, with the few chances they did get, Carter Verhaeghe power play goal, makes it 1-0. And then, of course, they add to it later in the period with the 2-0 goal. Now, Carolina, to their credit, looked like at the time they had gotten themselves one hell of a big-time goal, 2-1 off the skate of Aho. Nice little redirect move without kicking it. Well done by him, because he didn't straight-on kick it, but he did direct the skate. They kind of, more often than not, they allow those goals to stand, and they allowed that one. And it looked like Carolina had momentum going into the second period, but just a horrific pinch by Carolina at the wrong time, and just awful to give up a 2-on-1 like that. And the Florida Panthers made them pay for it. And that 3-1 goal, just when Carolina had a good start to the second period. They really did. They came close to tying it a couple of times. And then for Florida to come back down the ice and get that 2-goal lead back and get it back to 3-1, it felt like that, that took a lot of wind out of the sails of not only Carolina, but the Lenovo Center as well last night, which really, got quiet from that point on. And then once Florida gets, the 2-goal, 3-goal lead like they did, it's put the clamps down and just suffocate the life out of you, which is what they've done now in a lot of their wins. Game 5 against Toronto, Game 7 against Toronto, and just a great job by them. And obviously in the third period, they put it away even further with the power play goal, Sam Bennett, and E2 Coolmint Lusterinen, who continues to be one of the more underrated forwards for this team, that make it 5-1. A little bit of a garbage time goal for Jackson Blake, but it wasn't garbage time to me because it cashed my bargain bin special with Jackson Blake plus 400 last night to make it a 5-2 final score. But at the end of the day, look, and how about this fourth line again for the Florida Panthers and how good they were? Just incredible with Greer, Nosek, and Gadjevich. I mean, they not only are they making the physical impact and just wearing out teams physically, because they pound everybody in sight when they're on the ice, that fourth line. But look what they're doing offensively now. They've scored goals, that fourth line of the Panthers, 3 of the last 4 games. How about the offense that you're getting from them? Just Paul Maurice, man, you got to tip your cap. That's one hell of a coaching move he made in the middle of the Leaf series to put that fourth line together. And they have delivered big time in a big way for him in the last few games. I thought, again, at 5-on-5, things to like for Carolina. I'd be careful about reading too much into the 33-20 shots on goal edge. A lot of that was Florida protecting and a lot of those chances weren't grade A chances, quite honestly, in the third period, even though Carolina had the 13-5 shots edge. But it was just such an impressive win for Florida to go on the road in game one in a quick turnaround after ending the series against Toronto in 7 on Sunday night, a quick turnaround like that, and to take game one. And we have a nice little stat for you about Florida. When they lead a series 1-0 and when they win game one, all time as a franchise, they're 9-1. And when the series starts on the road and they win game one, they're 6-0 all time winning the series. So that is some very tough history and odds to overcome here if you're the Carolina Hurricanes. Now, they're not out of this series yet. You have to it's first to win 4, not first to win 1. But I think that was a hurtful loss for Carolina. And now that it's almost a utmost must to win game 2 and not get swept in these 2 home games. And how about the fact that the franchise that is the Carolina Hurricanes is now on a 13-game losing streak in the conference final? I almost can't believe it. It's shocking. It's almost unfathomable. Here they are, 0-13 somehow, the Carolina Hurricanes in their last 13 conference finals games. And then, of course, I should bring up, we had the incident, of course, with Shane Gostisbehere. Just lost his mind in a bad way, ripping the puck right at Brad Marchand. I don't blame Brad Marchand for going postal on him, getting pissed. Who wants to have a fucking puck ripped at their face, ripped at their body like that, or just shot right at them as hard as possible? That's exactly what Gostisbehere did. He was not using his noodle at that moment in time. And then, of course, Brad Marchand. And then the fact that Brad Marchand, I'm as puzzled as Paul Maurice or anyone on the Florida Panthers bench. The fact that Brad Marchand got a 10-minute misconduct out of that was a bunch of nonsense. I mean, I just couldn't believe that. A guy gets the puck fucking shot at him, and he gets the 10-minute misconduct? The guy that had the puck shot at him? How does that work? But nevertheless, it was crazy to see that. Paul Maurice with the beautiful response in the post game saying, I have my thoughts. I'm not going to mention them, though. It's just funny clip in the post game. And they were digging. They said, are you sure you want to say, no, just keep straddling that blue line. I'm not going to give it to you. So Paul Maurice, man, living up to the great entertainment in the media behind the microphone, as always. So, like I said, and Gostisbehere, Jonathan, that's a good point. Does he get a suspension and or a fine out of this is going to be the question. But there was definitely intent there. You don't shoot it the way he did in that moment to Brad Marchand. Now, Brad Marchand's no angel. He's no choir boy. We know that out there on the ice. But still, that was a bonehead move. Because now you've pissed off Florida even more. You let the sleeping dogs lie a little bit. And that's not the way to do it when you shoot the puck directly there at Brad Marchand. Clearly intent, not a smart move for Shane Gostisbehere. But credit to the Florida Panthers, Alex. They go up 1-0 in the Eastern Conference Final.
Yeah, that was a very impressive win. And I was saying it in the chat. I was saying it, even talking to my mom last night, been talking to you before the show. This reminds me of that 2015 Hawks team. Everything they do is efficient. The way they play defense, the way they move the puck, the way they're able to hit people. We talked about, I said, one of the keys of this series is the team who's able to, impart their physicality without getting in penalty trouble, not doing stupid things like Shane Gostisbehere shooting the puck at someone or taking, those retaliatory hits. We saw Carolina, take that second push, that second punch after a whistle and get sent to the box too. So everything that you see teams that win excel at, Florida's doing right now. They're getting the timely goals. You look at their shot chart, all their shots coming from the same kind of clusters of sections, not a bunch of shots all in place like you do at Carolina. Carolina shooting from everywhere, and just it's nothing of high quality. And they were playing right along the blue line a lot, especially on those power plays where they need to be moving the puck in deep. And you have to get Bob off balance. You're not getting Bob off balance passing the puck cross ice at the top of the blue line. You got to get between the circles and deeper. And they just
his lateral movement's terrific too, Bob. That's another problem. Yeah.
But that's because Florida's taken away the middle of the ice. They know how active sticks. They have probably the best active sticks left of the 4 teams. And when they have that rolling and on top of getting their possession game rolling, it's hard to beat them right now. And what I saw last night, this looks really bad for Carolina. You have to win game 2 otherwise. And it actually sets up what we talked about with Florida Tampa years ago. And I said it in the chat. I said if Carolina doesn't win the first period of game 2, They'll lose that game. They'll lose game 3, and they'll lose game 4, and this thing will be over in a sweep. That's pretty much what I saw, because you have to get all the momentum on your side immediately in game 2, because Florida just gets stronger and stronger. And a low scoring game is not going to help. There's no solace in you having a scoreless first period against Florida, because all it does is they clamp down tighter defensively, and they're more efficient and more critical with their shot selection offensively. So you have to bum rush them if you're Carolina, and that starts with the first period of game 2. You have to change the momentum quickly, otherwise Florida will carry this over. They'll take it home, and they'll sweep them out in 4.
Yeah, like I said, that's in the cards, because remember, they got swept 2 years ago, and it was just not a good first game. It's going to be interesting to see. By the way, it was a rough night, real rough night for Scott Morrow for the Hurricanes. He's the guy that was in the lineup for Chatfield, and I almost I'm like, why was Nikishin not in there? I thought Nikishin gave them some pretty good shifts and good minutes when we saw him in the second round against the Washington Capitals. Where the hell was Nikishin? I mean, I don't want to question Rod too much. Rod's had a great run as a head coach here, but I was scratching my head at that when I saw it. I've never seen this guy here. Now you're putting him in there in game 1 of the Eastern Conference Final against a team like the Florida Panthers, and he had a brutal night. He was the one on the ice for that terrible 3-1 goal when he got caught up the ice. It's a terrible pinch by him. Awful. And he was in the lineup instead of that Nikishin kid. I was very surprised by that. But from Rod Brindamore, I think he'd want him. I think if you put him in the chair and lie detector test, he'd basically say that maybe I'd want a mulligan on that. Maybe Nikishin should have been in there instead of. It was just a really rough night for him. Tough spot too. I mean, you haven't played much at all for this team, and now all of a sudden you're in there with the Carolina Hurricanes in the Stanley Cup or in the Eastern Conference Final. Big spot, and yeah, he had a tough night, unfortunately. By the way, Mike Kelly, great follow at Mike Kelly NHL on Twitter, and he's stats and analytics, NHL analyst. He's been on TNT's coverage, I think, a little bit in the studio a few times. They brought Mike Kelly on for some, analytical discussion. The Florida Panthers, he had a great stat from last night's game. They exited their defensive zone successfully 90% of their possession exit attempts last night, which tells you just how much of a clean, easy ride it was for Florida to get that puck out.
Wow.
And the one thing Carolina's been good at in these playoffs is sustaining ozone time and hemming teams in. But the problem is Florida's been pretty good at that too. And Florida, for most of the night last night, was able to exit the D zone efficiently, as you mentioned that word, efficient, quickly. One, and I saw some of these breakouts too. It's 1 pass, 2 passes, 3 passes. Forwards have support. Forwards support the puck for the Florida Panthers in all 3 zones.
Yep.
There's no stretch pass. There's no long hope passes needing to be made because the 5-man unit on the ice for them is connected at all times. And the passes are short, crisp, and that's how you break down, a forecheck in the offensive zone. And that's how you have clean, crisp, efficient D-zone exits like the Florida Panthers had last night. 90% of their D-zone exits last night successful. That's pretty impressive. You're going to win a lot of hockey games doing that when you're not under pressure and duress, getting the puck out.
And that was the last statement I made yesterday. And we're talking about this series. The team that's cleaner passing wins the series. And so far, 90%, that's insane. And the wild thing about that is it may not be sustainable for the rest of the postseason, but they can certainly do that at least 3 or 4 more times in this series.
That's right. You're not going to see 90% zone exits every game. But still, I mean, if you add up, if you're at least 80, 75, 80.
As I say, you get 75 or 80 in the next game, you still.
Yep.
Yeah.
There you go. And you're going to win a series. There's no question. So there's another level Carolina's got to get to, plain as day. And we'll see if they have a chance to get there tomorrow night, which is a great segue to mention the betcasts that we have coming up, because we will be on air tomorrow night for the Game 2 Eastern Conference Final, Florida and Carolina. That will be a free betcast. That will be our May free betcast tomorrow night, Thursday, May 22nd. Anyone's invited. So make sure you join us tomorrow night, Game 2 Eastern Conference Final. Ice Guys Live Betcast, open to the public, free to all, 8 p.m. Eastern. And of course, tonight, exclusively to our Patreon members, we have our Game 1 Western Conference Final Live Betcast, Edmonton and Dallas, Patreon exclusive tonight at 8 p.m. Eastern Time. So if you're currently not a Patreon member or subscriber, you want to be, so make sure you check it out. $10 per month. Join us for our live betcast tonight for Edmonton, Dallas, Game 1, Western Conference Final, 8 p.m. Eastern. I love the betcast at this time of year. Nice little crisp, clean, efficient, quick, like a Florida D-zone exit, 2.5 hour, 3 hour betcast. Not the long marathon ones that we've had most of the season. So, like I said, looking forward to it. $10 per month. Make sure you check it out, patreon.com/Ice Guys tonight, and join us for Game 1 of the Western Conference Final. Very much looking forward to it. This is not official breaking news that has just come down, but it's looking like we're moving toward it happening. So we'll run the bumper and talk about it in just a moment.
This is breaking news from the Ice Guys.
Sounds like Alex's Chicago Blackhawks are closing in on their next head coach, and it is former Detroit Red Wings head coach and recent assistant with Johnny Cooper down in Tampa Bay, Jeff Blashill, who is likely going to be the new head coach of the Chicago Blackhawks. It's a question now more so of they're hammering out the contract details and a question of when, not if, the announcement will be made official by the team. And there's going to be some changes with the coaching staff, apparently, as well, along with introducing Jeff Blashill as the next head coach of the Chicago Blackhawks. David Panatta is the one reporting that. It looks like it is closing in on happening. So we give the floor to Alex B. Smith and his initial thoughts that the Blackhawks looking like they will be turning to Jeff Blashill as their next head coach.
Well, I mean, the writing was on the wall from the very beginning when David Carl said he was staying at DU, and that seemed like that was the big home run swing that Kyle Davidson was looking for. And it seemed like he didn't really have much of a plan B. There's no way the franchise had the stones to try to bring back Quenneville. It seemed like Tocchet was an option off the table right off the rip. Mike Sullivan, I don't think would have been a good fit personally. So you had to start digging around the bottom of the barrel, and here we pick up Jeff Blashill. So the thing will be, one, what does he do with his staff? I'm glad we're not recycling Derek King, who's
what he's going to do? Like going to call Travis Green and ask him, is Mike Yeo available?
I fucking hope not. But so the thing about it is, you're not keeping Derek King around, which I really didn't understand. That transitional thing was just all weird from Rip. Anders Sorensen, he did all he could. He's been with the organization for a long time. And if he still sticks around, that would make more sense than anything. But I would rather see Blashill bring in his people, set up his system, get the coaches who can work with these players and work with, because here's the thing. There's a lot of young talent. This team's not going to run and dominate the West next year, even if you make a big free agent splash, right? Like, people still have to temper their expectations. It's still 2-3 years away from actually being a legitimate Western Conference contender. But there needs to be growth and movement forward. So you have to put together the right people. You have to be offensive minded. And that's the thing with Blashill. It's hard to gauge what he did in Detroit because he had such shitty teams in Detroit. So you got to grade him a little bit at a curve, but I want to see who he puts together, what he's building as far as his staff goes, what moves are the Hawks going to make. Seems like they're going to keep that number 3 pick rather than make some kind of a big trade, but there still will be free agent moves. They still have to re-sign some guys. So I'm not going to just completely burn this deal up right at the beginning of it. Let's see what happens. Let's see what they put together. But it seems like he's the 38th coach of the Chicago Blackhawks organization, Jeff Blashill.
Well, don't forget, he is a Calder Cup champion head coach. He won a Calder Cup with Grand Rapids. It was about 13 years ago. Great job there in the American Hockey League. And then when he got the Detroit job, after Babcock, and, great first season, actually. Third in the division, lost in the first round, and then it was all downhill from there. 6 seasons after that, not a single playoff appearance. for the. But again, you mentioned it; those were some horseshit teams roster wise.
And they pulled the plug after that first year. The organization decided to go in a different route and start to rebuild and retool. And you're seeing where that got them now. Those key guys that were rebuilding and those guys that were funneled through. I will say this about the Red Wings: they do have a very tight pipeline with Grand Rapids. They've always have ever since that foundation was laid around 2004. They've always been very tight. So they measure out things well, and I think that's part of the hire as well. He has that kind of expertise with the funneling of the pipeline, knowing how the AHL system works, knowing when to bring up certain guys, within a season. I think those little intricacies are probably the things that helped him maybe win this job over. It's not so much his X's and O's maybe a tad bit questionable. He doesn't have the best track record previously, but there's other intangibles that he has that maybe some other coaches they were looking at don't.
Yeah, I don't mind it. I'm neutral on this. I'm not going to crap on this hire. Could they have gotten a better coach? I think so, but they could have gotten a lot worse too than Jeff Blashill. And like I said, I think the man deserves a second crack at it at some point. I'd rather they go this direction than Derek Lalonde, another Detroit Red Wing head coach that recently got dismissed. I think giving Blashill this chance instead of him, I think I'd prefer Blashill than Lalonde, quite honestly. So I don't mind that. And he's done a nice job on television, Lalonde, but I'd still prefer them giving Blashill this opportunity, personally, Chicago.
And I'm happy that they went with someone who does have NHL experience rather than another first-time head coach.
Yeah.
Because I think another first time in
plenty of it. Like 7 seasons there in Detroit for him.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. So they need. That's what I'm saying. That experience alone is needed with this group compared to trying to something new with the Jeremy Colson or Derek King or Anders Sorensen.
I think what a nice little intangible about this hire is that he's a Detroit, Michigan guy. Obviously coached Grand Rapids, coached the Red Wings. Obviously, it didn't end well there, and they fired him. Now he gets a chance to coach Chicago, an old rival. Not anymore, obviously, because they're in different conferences. But, Chicago was one of the biggest rivals of Detroit way back in the day. Kind of a, hey, new chance here. Stick it maybe a little bit.
Wouldn't it be nice if 4 years from now he wins a Stanley Cup and takes it back to Michigan, but he won it with the Chicago Blackhawks? I like that story.
That'll be a grimy feeling for the Michiganders, I can tell you that. If that were to ever happen.
Whatever.
Well, Alex will really shed some tears if it happens. But there's the news there as far as Jeff Blashill, the next head coach of the Chicago Blackhawks. I'm sure the press conference will be happening momentarily as well with that. All right, let's get into it. We got game 1 now of the Western Conference Final, and we will begin. Well, we won't begin. It's the only game tonight, but we will begin in Dallas here with game 1 analysis. Oilers and Stars. Can't wait. We've got Dallas minus 130, home favorites here in game 1. The total 6, pretty much across the board going into this one. Now, I do want to bring this up because, again, we've got this situation where with Florida and Carolina last night, we saw Carolina have the rest advantage, the longer layoff, lose game 1. Edmonton's the team with the longer layoff going into game 1 tonight against Dallas. And last I looked, now we're looking at 7-13 is the run for the team in game 1 with the longer layoff than their opponent. So if you buy into that, and obviously we saw that with Carolina last night, that means maybe Edmonton's in a little bit of trouble here tonight. The one thing I'll say about Edmonton, if you look at their game 1s in the first 2 games, in the first 2 rounds of these playoffs, the first game against LA was a disaster, and they had a slow start. Game 1 against Vegas, they won that game, but they also had a very, very slow start in the first period in particular of game 1 against the Vegas Golden Knights. So to say that the first period of game 1, specifically the first period of game 1, because they did come back to beat Vegas in game 1 in the second round. And then, of course, we know they got steamrolled early, and then they almost made that crazy comeback, but still lost game 1 to LA in the first round. But they have had slow starts, the Edmonton Oilers here in these first 2 game 1s. So I've already got the thought of maybe a Dallas first goal in the first period type of thing here tonight, because certainly if you bet that with Los Angeles in game 1 against Edmonton, you would have cashed. And if you would have bet that with Vegas in game one against Edmonton, you would have cashed that as well. Both of those teams to score the first goal of the first period in game one. So I think I am interested in that bet just because of these performance patterns we've seen in the first two rounds where Edmonton's been a little sluggish out of the gate. We mentioned this overall series breakdown. To me, we aren't going to see Matthias Ekholm until at least game three. Chris Knobloch confirmed that. So it is going to be the same blue line that we saw in the first two rounds. They're not going to rush him back. He just started practicing about a couple of days ago. So, again, they're not going to rush him back. I don't think there's going to be a boatload of changes right now for Edmonton based on what worked so well in dispatching the Vegas Golden Knights in 5 games. This is a team that's just been on an incredible, remarkable run since going down 2-0 to the Los Angeles Kings in the opening round, where they again reeled off 4 straight wins after that. And now you're looking at 9-1 for this Edmonton Oilers team in their last 10 playoff games. So they're playing with great confidence, no question about that. But they have had those slow starts, early especially in game ones in the first 2 rounds. We'll see if they can get over that here. For the Dallas Stars, you obviously have a situation for them where 3 straight years now in the conference final on their side. Obviously, Edmonton getting to Game 7 of the Stanley Cup final last year, where they were down 3-0. They roar back, force Game 7 with 3 wins in a row, and agonizingly and so painful to see them fall short. And if anyone watched the Amazon documentary last year and saw the Oiler reaction in the dressing room after that Game 7 loss in Florida, it was like someone died. Like it's just staring, silence, taking off the gear and just silence and just stunned and just staring, and you hear the sounds of the celebrations going on. The motivation for Edmonton to win this series and get back to another cup final and finish the job this time, it's off the charts. But you could say that about Dallas. Dallas's motivation is supreme as well. They're finally trying to get to a cup final for the first time in these 3 years that they've been to the Western Conference final. This has always been the stumbling block for them. And now they face the team that knocked them out specifically last year in the Western Conference final. So that's why this series is so great. We know it's 2 great teams. It's 2 teams that have made deep playoff runs now multiple years in a row. It's the same rematch of the West final. That's an intriguing situation. And we have motivation that should be off the charts. A desperation and a hunger that you can't fucking believe unless you're in their shoes for Edmonton to get back to the cup final and finish the job this time. And for Dallas to finally get just to a Stanley Cup final, let alone win one, just to get to a Stanley Cup final and also beat the team that knocked them out last year. That's why this series should be so fascinating. You've obviously got in Edmonton the talents of McDavid and Draisaitl leading the way. What's scary about them right now is that they were solid. They didn't have to be dominant against Vegas, and they were still able to beat the Golden Knights in 5 games because you got Evander Kane and Adam Henrique and Connor Brown and Trent Frederick and Corey Perry, of course, Kasperi Kapanen scoring an overtime winner. All your depth guys made a difference. And that's been, I think, something that is definitely more noticeable this year about Edmonton, why they're more dangerous in that regard. The depth is coming to play and making an impact and scoring for them. It's not Connor McDavid and Leon Draisaitl exclusively every night. This blue line has been remarkable in how they've played, despite no Ekholm all playoffs. Bouchard and Nurse have gotten better after the early struggles against LA. Kulak, Stetcher, Wallman, and even John Klingberg. I can't believe what we're getting out of John Klingberg right now in these playoffs. Wallman's been rock solid. No doubt. Lots to like for Edmonton. Skinner, who is coming off back-to-back shutouts. That's why we got the shirt. There you go. Skinner. We've got the shirt because of that reason on today for the show with him playing great. So all of that's going for Edmonton. What's going for Dallas is, look, they got their best defenseman by far, Miro Heiskanen, back later in that series against Winnipeg. And I thought the last game against Winnipeg, it really looked like old Miro again. He was getting more ice time. He was starting to play number 1 power play. He was starting to play more minutes, get more ice time, really get him back against the best players on the other team. And he was starting to look like Miro Heiskanen, the dominant version again. Later in that series against Winnipeg, it looks like he's reunited with Thomas Harley. And now you've got 2 guys that are basically number 1 D. And I'm ready to call Harley, Alex, number 1 defenseman caliber. That's how
Oh,
good
yeah.
this has been.
Oh, yeah.
100%. And now you put him and Heiskanen and Harley together. That's going to be fun to watch. Lindell with Cece. Leon Bischel, who's just, physical machine right now in these playoffs. I've loved his game. And Alex Petrovic looks like he's going to keep his spot ahead of Lyubushkin. Looks like he's the odd man out, with Peter DeBoer likely to go back to 12 forwards and 6D here tonight for game one. It's a tough call. It's not like Lyubushkin's played at a level that he deserves to be sat down, but I think Petrovic's been, to be honest, just a little bit better than Lyubushkin, and I would keep Petrovic in, quite honestly. It's a tough call either way for Pete, but I understand why he made that call. There's no question. We've got Granlund, Hintz, and Rantanen. Now, here's what I think could swing the series toward Dallas if this happens. If they can get Matt Duchene, Tyler Seguin, Jamie Benn, Mason Marchment, and even Jason Robertson, who was pretty quiet offensively since coming back from injury. If they can get those guys to pack some punch offensively in this series, that's really going to put, I think, Dallas in the catbird seat. Because I thought a little bit too much in the Colorado series and even in the Winnipeg series. It was the finish, 5, if you will. Well, 4 mostly, because we're not, Lindell, doesn't do a lot offensively, but I'm talking about the 4 up front with Granlund, with Hintz, with Rantanen, or the 3 up front, I should say, with Granlund, Hintz, and Rantanen. They kind of carried the offense, along with, of course, Wyatt Johnston, who was great. And what I like too, and I don't know how many people are going to talk about this, but Sammy Steele has really given Dallas great shifts, great efforts, offensive threats in the O-zone a lot as these playoffs have gone on. I think his offense, I think he's become more dangerous up front for the Dallas Stars as these playoffs have gone along. I like it that Sam Steele is being promoted up to the 3rd line, it looks like, to start game 1 tonight between Tyler Seguin and Mason Marchment. You got a guy that's been getting to the net, got a guy that's been generating chances, and you put him with 2 guys that could use a little bit of a jolt, offensively going into this series, and Seguin and Marchment. So I really like the idea, assuming this is going to stay this way, but certainly looks that way right now, because Sam Steele in that Winnipeg series, how dangerous he got. And of course, he had the tying goal, 1-1 in game 6 of the game where they eliminated the Jets on Saturday night. So I like that move. He's gotten better as the playoffs have gone on, more of a threat offensively. So I do like that here in this game. I don't love a side bet or a money line bet in this game, but I am going to take Dallas minus 130 for 2 reasons. A smaller bet on them. There's something I like more, which I'll get to, and I think you know what it is already. But Dallas minus 130 because it's the team that knocked out Edmonton or Dallas last year. This is your first crack at it. I know it didn't work with Carolina last night, but it worked in the second round. Toronto beat Florida in game 1. Edmonton beat Vegas in game 1. The team looking to avenge a playoff defeat to that same opponent, and they came out strong in game 1. And there's just been too many concerns. Like, they came back and they beat Vegas in game 1, but if they start that way tonight, another slow game 1 start for the Oilers, it's going to be tougher, I think, to make that comeback against a team like this and a goalie like Jake Ottinger, who, as we saw in the Winnipeg series, he's just gotten better and better and better, and he's in an absolute friggin' zone right now going into this series. So I'm going to take Dallas first goal of the first period, Dallas minus 130. Both of those are going to be smaller bets. And then the only other pregame bets I've got, remember, we got our Patreon exclusive live betcast tonight, so definitely saving some for live moves in-game during the game. But the only other pregame bets is, as you know, it cashed last night. It was really what saved me after Carolina went south, and that was the over by Fecta last night, and we're going to take the over by Fecta here again tonight. Over 1.5 first period, over 6 full game. It's been strong in game 1s. And remember, with Skinner, for as good as he's been in the end of the Vegas series, we're back to game 1 versus game 1, 2, and 3 of a series now with Stuart Skinner. Not game 4, 5, 6, or 7, where he's been Marty Brodeur-like, where he's been, 12-1 run and this .940 save percentage. Well, in games 1 through 3 for Stu Skinner entering this series, we're talking about an 800 save percentage. We're talking about a guy that was really locked in and in a zone in the last 2 games against Vegas. in that opening round or in that second round after he replaced an injured Calvin Pickard. And now he's been sitting for how many days? When did they finish against Vegas? Last Thursday or whatever it was. It's been a long time sitting, and now you're starting on a Wednesday. It's almost a full week since we've seen Stu Skinner in the net. And again, 1 through 3 in a playoff series, games 1 through 3 for Skinner, 7-11, 3.81 goals against average, 866 save percentage. It's crazy. Early in the series, this guy gives up probably your 1 or 2 soft goals, and we saw it in the LA series. And then in game 4 through 7, it's like a switch gets flipped. And he says, well, now these are the critical games of the series. Let's dig in and get the job done. I don't know how it's been constant with him because these are 2 years worth of sample size now in the playoffs for Stuart Skinner with the Edmonton Oilers, where game 1 through 3, he looks like an average goalie at best. He looks like a fucking Hall of Famer, in games 4 through 7. So I can't explain it, but now we got him in game 1 and the numbers bear it out. He's not good early in the series. So I think that opens the door for Dallas a little bit and for the overs for that matter here tonight. So Dallas first goal, first period, Dallas money line, Edmonton, Dallas over 1.5 first period, Edmonton, Dallas over 6 full game. I might even dabble in both teams to score in the first period as well, which did cash in game 1 for Edmonton and Vegas, if you'll remember. It was 2-1 for Vegas after the first period of that game. So there you go. Those are the looks for me pregame. We'll obviously have some stuff going live during the betcast tonight. Alex, what do you think here? Western final, game 1, Edmonton, Dallas.
So one thing I did do this morning, and I have to mention because I talked about this yesterday when we did the preview. I did have some Edmonton to win game 1, Dallas to win series. I grabbed the price of plus 475, but I did kind of buy back out of that by grabbing Dallas to win game 1, Dallas to win series. So I've just essentially turned that into a Dallas series bet. So I'm back to neutral and even on game 1. I'm looking at the over by factor, but I'm waiting for that in game to get minus 125 at the over 1.5. I'm seeing splits of 5.5 and 6s. Of course, shop around if you do like the over pregame. Try and grab a 5.5. I want to wait. I want to wait and see the pace. I think we can wait and grab plus numbers for both 5.5 and over 1.5 until we have the bet cast. So those are 2 things I will definitely have circled for the right out of the gate to start with the bet cast, looking for the over by factor. But I'm thinking about sprinkling on the draw. And this is where I'm, like I said, I'm seeing this kind of maybe back and forth. There's great angles that support Dallas winning this game. Like I said, that rolling momentum. I definitely think with Dallas, especially being at home, that rolling momentum could play a lot more, especially now when you see the numbers. It's 7-13 when teams, it's 4 days or more of rest in the playoffs. So Edmonton having the full week off would qualify in that situation. That's something that maybe worries me a little bit, even though I think Edmonton, a team that's been banged up all year. Remember how banged up they were even just heading into the playoffs. If there's one of the 4 teams that could maybe benefit from having a few extra days of rest, it could possibly be Edmonton. So, like I said, those 2 things cancel each other out for me. That's why I bet both sides of the game 1 bet. And I'm just going to roll the draw pregame and look for those over by factors in game.
You're right about the fact that you're going to get 5.5, just a couple minutes in. If you could just get out of the first 2, 3, 4 minutes of the first period scoreless, you're definitely going to get in on a 5.5 at that point here in this game. So that's definitely a solid approach, especially for those of you that plan on live betting and plan on joining us tonight on the Patreon exclusive live betcast. No question about that. So like I said, I think it's definitely it's a little bit better spot just for Dallas, just because of the fact that you do have Edmonton off the longer layoff. You got the bad numbers for Skinner in game 1 through 3 of a series. You've got Dallas in the revenge mode of they're the team that lost last year in this head-to-head West final. Dallas did, not Edmonton. So not that Edmonton doesn't come out, storming and wanting game 1. Both teams want game 1, but I think for Dallas, it's just let's set the tone early. Let's take game 1 and show that maybe it's going to be a different result this year. And like I said, the over by factor, because of the fact that I think we're going to see the defenses a step behind early. And again, the weaker numbers for Skinner in the games 1 through 3 in the playoffs matter. And again, we saw it last night, and last night I didn't love the over by 5, but I said these game 1s with these layoff teams, Those are usually the games I like to bet overs and bet for goals. And we saw that last night with the 5-2, 7 goals in that game, in that Florida-Carolina game one. I think we'll see something similar once again here tonight. Perlo joining us now on the show. Perlo, welcome in. What do you think here? Game 1, Western Conference Final, Edmonton, Dallas.
Yeah, like you said, both of these teams actually are known for their slow starts. Of course, Dallas they finally took that off their back with the last win in
That's right. The game
Winnipeg.
1 losing streak is over for Dallas. They finally snapped it against Winnipeg.
That's right. And I actually like when teams break a streak like that. I usually find that it takes the monkey off their back and it's kind of forgotten, and they play better in first games the next time, or whatever it is that the streak is. Usually they'll come back and play. They usually don't go back to what the streak was saying they were. It usually takes the monkey off their back. So I like Dallas here as well, a little bit, minus 130. I have Dallas to win the first, like the same as we were doing yesterday. And a little bit on that. My gosh, I don't know. Carolina, that was a spot for them, and to get beat up like that, I'm changing. I put a little bit on Florida in 5. That's just too difficult to bounce back from, I think. But I think here Dallas is going to come out hard here, no doubt about it. Edmonton will come out hard as well. I think they got the monkey off their back. I like Dallas first period. I like Dallas, like you said, to score the first goal. And I like Dallas for the game. And I like the over bifecta. I like the over bifecta as well. We've seen it over and over again. We saw it. I mean, that game yesterday, that's probably going to be an under series. But the first games, for some reason, it takes them a bit to get going again, get back in their groove again. And what seems to happen is they kind of go, okay, look, we need a little bit of time here, so we better just score. and that's tends to happen on each team. So I like the 6. I think the 6 is minus 120 is a good play. And I like the over 1.5 at minus 130 for the first period. I'm going to tell you on that both teams to score in the first period as well. And of course you have, going back to Skinner, and that's going to be the most interesting part of the series. Can he break that trend? Can he break the trend where he comes in and plays good right from the get-go? Until I see it, I'm not going to play it. So I also have Dallas team total over too. I took Dallas team total over 3.5, and I put a little bit on Edmonton team total over 2.5. It's minus 160, but it's too easy for Edmonton to score 3 goals, whether they win or lose in a series. And I'm going to keep on rolling with their offense, that if they do get down, they'll be able to come back a little bit. The only thing that scares me about that, of course, is Ottinger is a beast. And, from yesterday, I did take Edmonton to win the series. I haven't put tons on it, and it's all because of Ottinger. Ottinger, no doubt about it, could just take this series almost by himself.
Yeah, no question about that. Like I said, he was in great form. Skinner, I think when Skinner's dialed in, he can be off the charts, and we know that. Yeah. But Skinner, we've seen, it's just been a consistent pattern with him. He needs time to get into a series before you see his absolute best game. And now the layoff can't help. Like, he was dialed in the last 2 games against Vegas. I mean, he was spectacular. And look, the D was playing very well in front of him too, but he was just phenomenal. He was right on top of everything. He was in great positioning. He was seeing the puck well. The rebound control was impeccable. And now you give him, 5-6 days off when he's in that kind of a rhythm? I think that's tough for him tonight, specifically, to keep playing as well as he did. No question. So, like I said, you know what I think about Skinner? I know Matt's smack talking him there, as I'd expect as a Stars fan. He is a nice guy. He truly is. I've heard him. Like, there's not, he actually, if you were a Dallas fan and he was on your team, you'd be rooting so hard for him. He's really a likable fellow. But Not likable in this series when you're trying to beat him and the team that that knocked you out last year. So I get the sentiment. As far as player props for tonight's game here is concerned with Oilers and Stars, I think when you look at this particular matchup here tonight, as far as the point props, there are a couple that stand out. I do want to mention here with Miro Heiskanen. He's only about a minus 115 or so to get a point tonight. And that's now 7 of his last 10. He's gotten a point. I find now the increased minutes, this is where you take advantage, of the price you're getting on Heiskanen to get a point, because now he's up on that top pair again with Harley. The minutes are going to increase. He's had, since Saturday off, Edmonton's had a lot of days off, but even Dallas has been able to get, 3 days off here since the game 6 against Winnipeg. So for Heiskanen, that's only a benefit for him. So definitely his point prop makes sense. Thomas Harley, it's still insane that you're getting him in the minus, plus 100, minus 105 range to get a point as well with what he's done. So both of those D to get a point, I think, are great bets here as far as this game's concerned tonight for the Dallas Stars. For the Edmonton Oilers, you look at how their lineup gets deployed, and Chris Knobloch, that's another thing too. If Edmonton starts to get the upper hand in this series and Chris Knobloch does his wizardry with the lineup construction, leading to positive things for Edmonton, I need to see Pete DeBoer respond in kind in this series. Let's see if he can do that. If there's a lineup maneuver that pays off for Chris and Edmonton, like putting Kapanen in the lineup for Arvidsson in Game 5 against Vegas, and Kapanen was all over the ice in that game, hitting everything, making things happen, getting chances, and ultimately getting the overtime series winning goal and cashing my bargain bin in the process that night. Pete's got to show that, hey, I can flex my lineup too to help my team, in a positive light. And I think he's capable of it. Look, Pete's a great coach too, but I mean, what Knobloch's been doing with these lineups and just every move, it's like everything, every change he makes pays off and works, it seems. For Knobloch these last 2 playoffs. It's been remarkable, and Kapanen's another example of it. Pete's got to be able to show that, hey, if Edmonton starts to get the upper hand and wins a game, how do you counter that with your lineup? What changes do you make? Who comes in? Who goes out? Who goes up the lineup? Who slides down the lineup? Who gets more minutes? Who gets less minutes? That kind of stuff. Let's see what Pete can do with that, because certainly we've seen Chris Knobloch thrive in these spots, making these adjustments. And we'll see if Peter DeBoer can show his moxie here a little bit as a head coach in this round with that kind of chess match as far as the X's and O's and the adjustments are concerned. On the Edmonton side, you've got McDavid, Hyman, and Nuge likely to be their top line. I said it in the series preview yesterday. I'll say it again. Podkolzin and Kapanen with Draisaitl. Take your pick. They're both loaded with value for props, in my opinion. Whether you want to go shots, whether you want to go to goal props, assist props, point props, whatever the case, as long as Kapanen and Podkolzin play with the big German, Leon Draisaitl, they're going to have great value in this series starting tonight. So I like Podkolzin, Kapanen. We're going to go back to the well with those two here tonight because, like I said, with these guys like McDavid and Draisaitl, they can make a broomstick play well half the time with alongside them. So, like I said, Podkolzin and Kapanen have great value. Don't sleep on Evander Kane, who has been very, very good. Think about the fact he'd been out all year and obviously played so well throughout the playoffs so far. He's likely to be with Henrique and Brown. Likely to be the third line. They've got Frederick, Janmark, and Perry, a nice little checking line that can maybe chip in a little offense here and there. So I like the lineup that Edmonton's going with. For Dallas, said this earlier, I love the finished trio of Granlund, Hintz, and Rantanen, and the chemistry with those three clearly have it. Every time you see them on the ice, there's no doubt. Robertson, Duchesne, and Johnston. If Robertson steps his game up and we get Matt Duchesne, getting his offensive game going, Wyatt, I don't worry about. Wyatt's big time in big games. I don't worry about Wyatt Johnston, but can Matt Duchesne and Jason Robertson pump it up a little bit here alongside him? That's going to be the question. And I love what Pete's doing with Sammy Steele. Like I said, Sam Steele has just gotten better in the playoffs as it's gone on. He's with Seguin and Marchment. Give that line a little bit of an offensive jolt. Steele made things happen, plays his butt off. And I think that's going to help that third line. And then you got Jamie Benn, Oscar Beck, and Dodonov, it looks like, down on the fourth line. So I know it's the captain, and think of Jamie Benn as, someone that's capable of being a top six guy in the past, but I don't mind it. His offense has been kind of struggling a little bit. So, like I said, I don't mind that move. And I know Jamie Benn will be all in for the team. I don't think it's going to be something that bothers him, that he might start this series on a fourth line with Oscar Beck and Evgeny Dodonov. I think for him, it's all about, whatever I need to do, just play my game to the best of my ability. It's all about winning this series, finally winning a conference final and getting to the Stanley Cup final. So I don't mind that. And then the blue line, as we know, is great now that it's healthy again. So it's a great series, man. It truly is. There's no question about that. As far as, and I'm going to sprinkle on Sam Steele for Dallas, getting that third line opportunity as far as a goal prop for him here in this game. I think if I were to Robertson, Duchesne, Marchment, and Seguin, that is a quartet that you could use some more offense from those four guys. I've said that. I would probably go with Matt Duchesne. For some reason, I'm feeling with him. He's the most likely of the four, I think, maybe to have an offensive outburst. Because I thought he did have a couple of chances there in the Winnipeg series. We'll see if he can build on that. And the last thing I will say, too, and I'm talking, Tyler Seguin has won a cup, but it hasn't been with Dallas, but he's been there a long time. But more so Benn and Duchesne. Those two guys have not won a Stanley Cup. And now they've been here with Dallas multiple years, and Benn especially through all the years. And he goes back even further to when they went to the final in the COVID season against Tampa Bay with Rick Bowness as the head coach. Let's see Jamie Benn and Matt Duchesne. How many more chances are you going to get at this, boys? You got to ask that. Leave it all out there. Whatever you've got to offer this team in this series, give 110% of it and have no regrets. Because for these two in particular, you don't know how many more chances you're going to get at this. These two guys that have been great players in this league for a long time. And, the Father Time's not waiting around, and you're not guaranteed. Jim Nill said it yesterday, how fucking difficult it is to get to the conference final even just 3 years in a row, and how close we were to having another team in our spot instead of us. This is another glorious opportunity for the Dallas Stars, and especially for their longtime captain, Jamie Benn, and Matt Duchesne, who is also without a Stanley Cup in his career. Give it all you got, and play hard hockey, smart hockey. And I'm talking more so with Benn with smart hockey. No crazy incidents like the one I just lost. I lost it on Ben a couple of years ago with what he did with Stone in that Vegas series. It was just such a stupid bonehead thing to do, and it cost his team dearly in that series. I think it was a big catalyst to them losing that series was his nonsense 2 years ago.
Yep.
I think he's grown from that. I think he's learned from that. It's clearly he knows that was such a horrific mistake to do that. And I think he'll play a good series. Will it be enough is the question, but can't wait. I mean, looking forward to it. Like I said, this series should be something, and we're excited to have it start on a Patreon exclusive live betcast tonight. So make sure you join us. Again, $10 per month, patreon.com/iceguys. And we are live tonight at 8 p.m. Eastern for Edmonton, Dallas, Western Conference Final, Game 1. Make sure you join us and sign up at patreon.com/iceguys to be there for tonight's live betcast for Game 1 of the West Final. And if you're not a Patreon member, you can still join us tomorrow night when we will have Game 2 of the Eastern Conference Final, Florida, Carolina. That will be a free-for-all betcast, open to everybody. But if you want to join us for the one tonight for Edmonton, Dallas, make sure you sign up. Your subscription goes a long way to supporting the show and keeping us going long-term. $10 per month, patreon.com/iceguys.
Also, check out the Ice Guys store, iceguys.myspreadshop.com. You're hanging out with us for the betcast tonight. Maybe after that goes off, you shop around a little bit, wait for midnight Eastern to roll around, and you'll have 20% off. Be coming up for the next few days, starting at midnight Eastern. 20% off of everything at the store. That'll be available at takeout. So get that now at iceguys.myspreadshop.com.
All right, make sure you check that out. And yes, that was one of my all-time rants on this show. Jamie Benn a few years ago in that Western Conference Final. I have that episode of that rant bookmarked. That rant, Mitch Marner rant a few years ago when he said we weren't ready against Montreal. A lot of my Leaf rants are up on the Hall of Fame of Ian Cameron rants on the Ice Guys show. the
Penguins.
stuff. Penguins with fucking Jari that year. I remember keeping him in the game, Sullivan, when the series is slipping away from him. That was a bunch of nonsense that he did that, and that had me just pissed off, livid. I remember that rant too. Just there's been some good ones. I appreciate that people enjoy them. Jim Hiller, this playoffs. I mean, gosh, absolutely. That's a recent one, Robert. I can't believe I forgot to mention that. Just happened a couple weeks ago. You're right. I'd put the Jim Hiller rants up there with any of the previous ones I've had. The Leaf rants, the Jamie Benn rant a couple of years ago, the Jari and the playoffs against the Islanders rant for the Penguins a few years back.
The Pedersen rant.
Oh yeah, Elias Pettersson giving him shit.
That was a good
soft, soft and not digging in. There's been some good ones over the years. I have to do if I ever find the time, and because all the friggin' shows from like day one are archived.
So go back and chop them.
Go back and we'll piece together all the rants and we'll put them in like a greatest hits thing. At some point, we'll find some time to do it. It'd be hard to track them all down, but I know which episodes some of them were. We'd at least be able to find some of them. But it's always good to get it off your. Hey, if you hold it in, you're going to feel worse. That's the way I always see it. If you get it out of your system, you'll feel better. And that's how I feel after all these rants that I do on this show. All right, but I digress. Let's talk about bargain bin specials of the night and best bets coming up in just a moment, right after we hear from our great Ice Guy sponsors.
Support for the Ice Guys podcast is provided by Boston Hemp Incorporated, Tailgaters Social, and a big thank you to all that subscribe to the Ice Guys Patreon page. Everyone loves a perfect pair. Bacon and eggs. Thunder and lightning. Mario and Luigi. A hot dog with fries. Ian and Alex B. That's right. Everyone loves a perfect pair. So why not pair up your game nights with Boston Hemp? From exotic flower to concentrates and edible products. You'd be hard-pressed to find a better pairing than Boston Hemp and hockey. Check them out today at bostonhempinc.com. That's bostonhempinc.com. Boston Hemp Incorporated, the official smoke sponsor of the Ice Guys. Void where prohibited by law. Not available outside of the United States. Must be 21 or over to obtain products. Check your local regulations to see if Boston Hemp is available in your area.
Hey, Alex, have you checked out the latest with the great trading platform Kalshi?
Yes, I have. It's been fantastic. This is one of the first and only federally regulated prediction markets in the U.S. And if you're looking for odds for all kinds of different things, not just what we're talking about, the markets in the Stanley Cup, the NBA Finals, you can trade crypto. You can look for trades within the markets involving entertainment, politics. There's all kinds of different markets you can look for, and you can use the odds over at Kalshi.
Time of year to get involved with Kalshi. Certainly if you're a sports fan. Stanley Cup playoffs, NBA playoffs, baseball now underway, with all the different markets to create winning trades. Make sure you're checking out all that Kalshi has to offer.
Absolutely. And if you're trading with Kalshi, use the link kalshi.com/iceguys. You trade $100 or more, they will send you $10 back. So it's fantastic to use. Like I said, any kind of markets beyond sports. We're talking entertainment, politics, crypto, basically anything you want.
So make sure you sign up, kalshi.com/iceguys. Note that it's live on Robinhood and available in all 50 states, making it the first legal place to trade on these kind of events nationwide. Check it out, kalshi.com/iceguys. Shout out to all our great sponsors, including Boston Hemp Inc., 20% off using the promo code IceGuys, and check out kalshi.com/IceGuys. Great trading platform. And again, more than just sports, crypto, politics, entertainment, you name it, markets for all different things. So check it out, kalshi.com/IceGuys. All right, bargain bin special of the night. We got one last night, one of our two hit, and that means profit.
Yep.
That's the beauty of selecting two. If you get even just one of them to cash, you're gold. And you're definitely profitable. And we got that with a late goal in the third period from Jackson Blake of the Carolina Hurricanes last night. We'll see if we can add to it tonight. Alex, we'll start with you. Bargain bin special of the night.
Yep, just going with the one here, and I'm rolling with Mason Marchment to get a goal. You can grab him at plus 360. I'm signing that at FanDuel. The FanDuel or MGM? That is just to make sure. DraftKings plus 400 actually is the best price available for that. So Mason Marchment, anytime goal, play some fucking Pantera, get a goal in game one. That's my bargain bin special tonight.
Mason Marchment for the Dallas Stars for Alex B. Smith with bargain bin special of the night. Perlo, bargain bin special.
Yeah, I'm going to go with two here. I think there's going to be lots of goals in this one, and I think Heiskanen has now got his groove going. So he doesn't really score all that much, but he plays. I think he's going to be playing on the power play, and I think he'll be in on a couple of them. I'm going to take Heiskanen over 2 assists at plus 650. And on the Oilers side, I'm going to go with Kane. Just love the way he's playing. I'm going to take Kane, ATG at plus 400, I believe it is, or is it? No, yeah, plus 370.
All right, there you go. Good stuff indeed. I like it. All right, bargain bin special for me as usual. I will go with two, and I'm going to see if Lightning can strike twice for a guy that we cashed a thrilling overtime winner bargain bin special with in the last round. Kasperi Kapanen for the Edmonton Oilers at plus 850 at DraftKings. One hell of a price there. That will be my Oilers bargain bin special of the night for this game. My Dallas Stars bargain bin special of the night. Landon and I have the same one. As crazy as it is to see, I'm popping it up and I'm like, does he got the script? Is he reading off my notes here, Landon? But it's also Sam Steele, Dallas Stars. I know he's up on the third line, but hey, he's been making things happen offensively and scoring goals and getting chances on the fourth line all playoffs. Now you're going to give him a chance to be on the third line now. I think now more ice time, more opportunity, and I think he's underpriced because of this. You know, you can get up to 14-1, plus 1,400. FanDuel's got plus 1,200. Bet365 plus 1,200. DraftKings plus 1,300. These are absolutely great prices. And Sam Steele's worth a look, in my opinion. Plus 1,400, the best price out there for Sam Steele to score a goal tonight. So there you go. We're going deep into the bargain bin tonight. Kasperi Kapanen, Edmonton, plus 850. Sam Steele, Dallas, plus 1,400 for my two bargain bin specials of the night for game one. All right, best bets. Alex, we'll start with you. What do you like for best bet?
We talk about it this time of year. It's important to have home ice, have the crowd rally behind you in game one to get started off on a good note. I expect Dallas to do just that. So give me the Dallas Stars to score the first goal in the first period, plus 115, available at both MGM and FanDuel. That's my best bet.
All
right, great stuff. Perlo, best bet.
Well, that's awesome because I need that to happen for my best bet as well. And I wasn't able to be on for the whole show today, so don't just go over to Perlo's NHL POW. You can get all my picks. I also have my Oilers. I promised you Oiler prop futures as well. I got them all there on the Twitter, so you can check me out. But I need that to happen, and I also need Oilers to score a goal in the second period. I'm going to go with that play I've been running with all playoffs. It's been working well for me. You can get that at plus 106. That's Dallas to score a goal in the first period, Oilers to score a goal in the second.
All right, and that has been working. I've seen it. So Dallas first period goal, Edmonton second period goal, plus 106 for Perlo with his best bet. My best bet for this game one, I will go with just full game over the total of 6 here with the Oilers and the Stars. The over by Fecht has been great throughout these playoff or these game ones, especially. Saw it last night, hit both legs, first period over and full game over with Florida and Carolina. The layoff for Edmonton, Skinner's numbers in games 1 through 3 in playoffs past are not good, especially compared to later in the series. But Edmonton's been able to score in these game ones too. So I just see goals both ways, early and often. So we'll go with Edmonton, Dallas, over 6, -115 for my best bet here for game one of the Western Conference Final. Shout out to everyone in the chat. Hit the like button. We appreciate it very much. And again, Betcast tonight, 8 p.m. Eastern. Make sure you're there and you're a Patreon member. Patreon.com/IceGuys, $10 per month to join the Betcast tonight. Looking forward to it. Reminder, the Ice Guys is live 7 days a week, Monday to Friday, 2 p.m. Eastern, Saturday and Sunday, noon Eastern. If you can't watch the show live, download the Ice Guys podcast in audio form on all major podcast platforms, Google Podcasts, Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Stitcher, iHeartRadio, Amazon Music, and more. Download the Ice Guys podcast when you can't watch the show live. For Alex B. Smith and Perlo, I'm Ian Cameron. Have a great Wednesday night. Enjoy the games and good luck. And we are back tonight with the live Betcast, Patreon exclusive for game one in the Western Conference Final with Edmonton, Dallas. And, of course, back tomorrow at 2 p.m. Eastern. Matt Geica returning to the show tomorrow, Thursday at 2 p.m. Eastern for another edition of the Ice Guys.